What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a Tuesday edition of Mile High Hockey. Will Peterson, Drew Spivak with you. As always, happy Thanksgiving week. And we got a lot to be thankful for with the Avalanche right now, Drew. My goodness, that road trip. I think you could make a case the Avalanche stole a couple of games in Nashville and Chicago. Think about this. They played 120 minutes of hockey and scored 2 real goals. Now, they had 2 empty netters against the Predators, but those 2 goals held up. A 3-0 win over Nashville, a 1-0 win over Chicago. Mackenzie Blackwood gets a shutout. Scott Wedgewood gets a shutout. What was your biggest takeaway from a fun road trip for the Avs in the sense that they got 4 points, and also maybe that they didn't play their best hockey and yet still came home unbeaten on the tour out east in the center of the country?
Yeah, it kind of made me think back to what we talked about a little bit on Friday, is that no matter what you put in front of this team right now, this team can just win in so many different ways. Nothing can really stop what this team is doing right now. When you talk about that Nashville game the other night, I don't know what the heck they were doing. Maybe they went out hanging out, partying all night on Friday night, because they looked completely lifeless on Saturday against Nashville. I know that's a place they historically struggle to play in the first place for whatever reason. It's just a tough barn for this team. But to go out and get dominated the way they did and get unbelievable goaltending from Mackenzie Blackwood, steal 2 points, then you go on the back-to-back and you go to Chicago on Sunday night, really struggle in the first period in that one as well. Finally, the second and third period, you got it together. And again, you get another brilliant performance from your goaltender and Scott Wedgewood this time. It's just another example of no matter what you put in front of this team right now, they just find ways to win. It doesn't matter. They can play sloppy. They can play great. It doesn't matter. This team just right now cannot be stopped. And I think for me, the most encouraging thing from this entire weekend was Mackenzie Blackwood. Getting him back on track, having him pitch the shutout. Yes, I know Nashville's not a very good hockey team, but he still faced 35 shots.
Yeah.
He faced a lot of high danger chances in that game as well. To come out and pitch a shutout like that and make you think, oh, okay, is Mackenzie Blackwood back? Heck, I was almost ready to come in here today and be like, well, I think we have a new conversation about who the number one goalie is, until Wedgewood did what he did on Sunday. It's like, well, listen, either way, it's encouraging because right now you've got 2 goaltenders that are both playing phenomenal hockey.
Yeah, no, it was huge. And there was even some chatter post-game of Blackwood and Bednar even kind of saying maybe he needed a game like that. Like, you never want the Avalanche to struggle, right? But at the same time, it was ready for, or people were ready for Mackenzie Blackwood to sort of get tested, if you will. And he got tested in a big way against Nashville and passed it with flying colors, because that was a 1-0 game with 2 minutes to go in the third period. And it wasn't like you said, he was just making, 16, 17, 18 saves. He was making 35 saves against the Predators. And, again, they're going to lose in regulation again at some point this year. They're going to lose 10 times, 15 times in regulation. It's going to happen. But I think in a roundabout way, if you could have asked Jared Bednar and the rest of the Avs, hey, you're not going to play very good, but Mackenzie's really going to get back in the rhythm. Those are sometimes the games you need to sort of snap guys back into the NHL feel, something that Mackenzie Blackwood really hadn't had since the playoffs last April and May.
And he's a goaltender also that needs to face a lot of shots to kind of feel comfortable. In fact, I bet if you ask most goaltenders, they'd all probably say the same thing. The more shots they face, the more comfortable they start to feel in a game. And so I think it was important. I think he mentioned it, that it was important for him to see all those shots against Predators on Saturday night. Now the question is, okay, he played on Saturday. Does he play on Wednesday night against the Sharks? Probably not. Is he going to play again on Friday against the Minnesota Wild? Like, what's this rotation going to look like moving forward? Because it's great that he was able to do that for one game, but now if he sits out for another week, it's like, okay, how does he kind of sustain what he's able to do Saturday night? That for me is going to be the big question moving forward, is like, how does this rotation go over the next couple of weeks? Does it stay what it has been? My guess is the way that Wedgewood has played, it's probably going to stay the way it has been the last couple of weeks since Blackwood returned to the ice. But I think that's going to be the really big question for me, is how does this rotation go over the next 2, 3, 4 months? Let's say until Christmas. If all things are equal and these two guys are playing the way they're playing right now, how does this rotation go? I think that's a huge question mark.
Yeah, I do too. One that Jared Bednar is going to have to navigate and decide, does he have a number 1? Does he have a 1A? Does he have a 1B? And it is a good problem to have, because I think right now the Avalanche have the best goaltending duo in the NHL, and I don't think it's particularly close. And it just goes to show you again that think about what we were talking about literally a year ago with Georgiev and Onanen. Georgiev's now going to the KHL. Onanen's just toiling in Nashville as this terrible backup. Chris McFarland overmade the goalie room, and he's gotten a lot of praise for it. But even just the first 20, 25 games of this season, Drew, I mean, this is phenomenal work to go from literally the worst goaltending room in the league to the best, and how relieved a guy like Nathan MacKinnon must be that they don't have to win game 6-5, because this time a year ago, man, they would have lost 4-1 to the Predators. Yep. They would have lost 4-1 to the Blackhawks, and instead they pull out 3-0, 1-0 wins. It is just so refreshing as an Avs fan to not have this lingering question mark. And not only is it not a question mark, it's now a massive strength for Colorado.
Yeah, no question. And you've got two goaltenders, both with a save percentage above 911. Like, that's insane to think about. Like,
if the first number is a 9, it's good. Just for context for people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you start getting above 910, you start talking about like really good. I mean, I know like the numbers have changed a little bit. Back in the day, it used to be like 920 or above would be considered elite. Now with the way the NHL is today, I would almost consider 910 and above elite. So guess what? You've got two goaltenders that are both sitting at 910 and above. So it's awesome to know that, you know, night in and night out, you can rely on these guys. And keep in mind too, like the Avalanche, like Nashville kind of being the exception of the rule, they don't give up a ton of shots either. Mm-hmm. This is a defense that's playing phenomenally in front of these guys. They're not giving up a ton of shots. Now you talk about like, okay, where do they stand as far as like the best goaltending tandem in the league? I don't, maybe Seattle right now with Grubauer and Joey Decord, maybe LA with Darcy Kemper, and I think it might even be Phoenix Copley as the backup out there. But you're right. There's not really another tandem right now that's playing as well as these two guys are. And it's just another sign of like, where's the weakness on this team, man? There's just no weaknesses here. And if as long as you can keep this going, sky's the limit for this franchise.
Yeah, no, it feels that way for sure. But it does beg the question, are the Avalanche peaking too early? Because right now they're an absolute wagon. The gap between them and second place in the NHL is similar to second and 25th place in the NHL. Think about that for a second. First and second to 25th, the same gap in the number of points. Obviously, it's going to be a fluid situation every night. But Drew, I'm really excited right now, but it's also still November. Listen, I want them to win. I'm not rooting for losses, obviously, but I do think it's fair of like, are we going to be looking back in the spring going, man, they were playing really well around the holidays, but then things kind of slowed down and the Olympic break will get thrown into all that. It's not something anyone wants to think about because we just want to let the good times roll. But I do think it's valid to wonder, is the Avalanche just kind of too hot at a time that you don't necessarily need to be the hottest team in the league?
I'll say this. There's two ways I look at it. Number one, I wanted to go for the all-time wins record, which is Boston from a couple years ago. What was it? I think 65 wins that year, 135 points. I think it'd be really cool if coming off what happened last year with this team, they could go for the all-time wins record. Now, that being said, I think one of the worries for me with this team is like you talk about peaking too early. What happens if this team gets out to a 20, 25-point lead in the Central Division and we do get to March and into April and they start resting guys kind of like they did last year? For me, I don't love the idea of going into April and, or, you know, the middle of the month or whatever, going into the Stanley Cup playoffs, having rested a bunch of guys, because I think it's harder to restart the engines once you do that. You're already going to have to do it after the Olympic break. You're going to have 2.5, 3 weeks off in February. Then you have to come back. It's going to be a mad sprint towards the finish. I do worry about having to go and kind of restart those engines moving forward. So that's one thing for me. It's like, okay, you guys could cool it off a little bit and not give yourselves that much of a lead. But all that being said, I do want the President's Trophy and I want the all-time wins record. So it's kind of like a which would you rather have type situation for me.
Yeah, I don't believe in any silly President's Trophy curse. Maybe famous last words, but I'm with you. It's just like they're going to cool at some point. That's going to be natural. It's going to happen. But I think if you're the Avalanche, just keep playing your best hockey. And if you do run away with things, that's a good problem to have. How do you navigate the rest down the stretch? All right, last thing before we get out of here, because we won't be here on Friday because of the holiday. Avs and Sharks Wednesday night. Macklin, Celebrini, Will Smith kind of taking the NHL by storm. We saw that game in San Jose where the Sharks won in overtime. Drew, it reminds me of the conversation we had about the Ducks a couple weeks ago. Not a game you would have circled at the start of the season, but Wednesday night, Ball Arena. We know Wednesday's like the biggest party night of the year, the night before Thanksgiving. I think this atmosphere is going to be awesome. I can't wait to watch this hockey game.
Yeah, I'm with you. Getting to see Macklin Celebrini come in, and the Sharks have been playing good hockey, honestly, since that Avalanche game. That's kind of when San Jose really started to turn this thing around. I think they're 7-3-0 in their last 10. They've won 3 of their last 4. This is a fun hockey team right now. So you got that on Wednesday night. Then you got Minnesota on Friday. By the way, Minnesota, second in the league in November for best record behind Colorado.
Really?
I don't think most people would have known that.
No, I wouldn't have guessed that.
They're playing really good hockey as well. So I think Wednesday night, Friday are going to be really, really fun hockey games to see. I can't wait to watch. But we get to see the top 2 scorers in the league on Wednesday. What more could you ask for the night before Thanksgiving?
All right. Well, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Drew and I will be off on Friday. We'll be back next Tuesday with so much new Avalanche news to react to. And we'll see you then on Mile High Hockey.